Welcome to another episode of Prime Human Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Miguel Damas, and today I want to make an argument on why you probably should invest your time, your effort, and maybe your money on a sauna if you want to maximize your longevity, your executive performance, and also your sports performance. Before we get right into it, I need to make a quick disclaimer. This episode is for educational purpose only and should not be considered in any way, shape, or form as medical advice. So please consult with your physician if you want to change anything about the protocols that you're on and you maybe want to include saunas there. With that out of the way, I'm really excited to be diving into this topic for one specific reason. I'm always looking into what may add a percentage point or 5% or 10% on the health level or performance level of myself, the people that I work with, people that I follow. And when I start looking into the impact that saunas can have, even though it's been a while for a long time, I started to get really excited really fast. And that's why I want to make this episode about this topic and hook it on three different areas: longevity, health and longevity, executive performance, and also sport performance. These will not be a super deep, super granular discussion about saunas, but actually a more practical perspective on what is the impact and what you can gain if you start having that practice. Now, to just contextualize a little bit everything, I need to go into a little bit of the science and explain a little bit on why saunas may impact our body and how they do it. When we look at the bottom line, saunas will have an effect in our system by increasing our response and our adaptation to stress. And it will do it in two major ways. The first one is by pushing a little bit our cardiovascular system. So when we are exposed to heat, our skin temperature will go up to 40, 41 degrees Celsius, and then our core temperature will follow suit, 37, 38, 39 degrees Celsius. As a result, it will make our heart work more. It will make our heart pump more volume of blood. The cardiac output will increase by 60, 70% in some cases. Also, the heart rate will go up. In some circumstances, it will go up to 40, 1 beat per minute, emulating very well what would be a moderate intensity training session. With that increased effort, our sweating will also increase as a way to cool down. And in here, we'll start having already a very good impact because it is possible to increase significantly the excretion of heavy metals, similar to what would happen on your urine. But for instance, aluminium excretion will increase almost 4 times, lead will increase almost 17 times, cadmium will increase 24 times. So it's not that it is a proper detox, but it will add significantly to our ability to clean our body. But with the sweating, and sweating can be a significant thing here. We may lose a liter of water for every hour of sauna. Our body will adapt to it by increasing the plasma volume. Because we are increasing the liquid and not necessarily the number of cells to start with, it will cause what's called a hemodilution. So in a very short term, the concentration of red blood cells in the blood will reduce. We are keeping the same number of cells and increasing the volume, therefore it will dilute, which then will trigger our body to start producing more red blood cells. So eventually, after a few weeks, the ultimate adaptation is we have more red blood cells to carry more oxygen into the cells and increase our actual literal ability for our engine to work and to deliver things to our system. This is, in a very small nutshell, how saunas will increase and will improve our cardiovascular system. Heat will increase cardiac output, that will increase sweating, it will increase plasma production, it will increase red blood cells production, and we'll have a bigger system. A second way is by triggering the production of something that's called heat shock proteins. Heat shock proteins are these little chaperones that what they will do in our system is protect the structure of our proteins. It will clean up, it will trigger repair, resynthesis. It is a very good way to maintain the structural integrity of our proteins. Because as we age, or as we have exposure to, or we are fighting some sort of chronic disease, our protein structure will go down. So these heat shock proteins will improve it. It will also improve the cleaning and the rebuild and resynthesis of proteins, so much so that it can improve muscle atrophy, which is loss of muscle mass because of aging, or if you are recovering from illness, recovering from injury, it will reduce the loss of muscle by 37%. It will also increase muscle production by 3 to 4%. And all in all, it will make sure that our proteins are stronger and better suited for our needs. Another impact that sauna can have in our system is by optimizing the balance between pro-inflammation and anti-inflammation. And given that chronic low-grade inflammation is associated with aging, with chronic disease, with loss of cognitive function, loss of physical function as we age, it is very important for our longevity, performance, or however you want to look at it. Also, it can trigger the biogenesis and the increased capacity of our mitochondria, which are these organelles that we have that produce energy, ATP, the actual currency of energy in our system. And in some cases, it can go up by 28%. So as you can see, the impact that sauna can have is very, very big. But in real world, how does it impact ourselves? And this is where it starts to get really exciting, really fast. When we think about an intervention of changing something, we can get carried away very easily into discussing interventions that can have an impact on 1%, 2%, 5% in reduction in risk of certain disease, or increase certain metric of performance by a couple of percentage points, which when you stack a lot of things, they all create a big impact. But when we are talking about saunas, and why it's so exciting, is the impact that sauna itself can have. So let me dive into the first area, which is health and longevity. And to do it, best way to look is to the science that's been produced in Finland. Because they have been having studies, long-term studies, ongoing studies. They have been following 2,300 plus people for 40 years now, trying to assess what's the impact that sauna have on mortality, heart disease, brain function, and other key metrics. So I hope you're seated, because these may be shocking. What the biggest study, which I have here, is called the Copio-Ischemic Heart Disease Study, KIHD. I've been following 2,300 plus people for more than 40 years, trying to assess what practice of sauna can have in their health. What they found was that sauna can reduce the relative risk of developing, and I'll be reading here, all-cause mortality, 40%. Heart rate disease mortality, 50%. Sudden cardiac death, 63%. Risk of fatal coronary disease, 48%. Risk of developing high blood pressure, 46% reduction. Reduction of dementia, 66%. The reduction of Alzheimer's disease, 65%. These are incredible, insane reductions of relative risk of developing all these massive diseases, including death. 40% risk reduction of all-cause mortality. I mean, it makes perfect sense of why in Finland there are more saunas than people. They have 1.5 to 2 saunas per inhabitant in Finland. They have it everywhere. It makes sense. I mean, the numbers are just crazy. And the great thing about this study is not only the length, but they also tell us what seems to be the best protocol. And I'll cover it at the end, but right now I'll tell you that what this study did was not comparing doing sauna to not doing saunas. They compared doing saunas 4 to 7 times per week versus 2 to 3 times per week versus once per week. And there is here a dose-dependent effect. More impact was on 4 to 7 sessions per week. But keep in mind, that's not against not doing. It's against doing just once. Probably if we would look into not doing, the impact would be much, much higher. Keep in mind that we are talking about doing something 4 to 7 times per week that can reduce all-cause mortality, 40%, risk of cardiovascular disease death, 50%, risk of dementia, 66%. And this is what got me into saunas and start really suggesting it to my people. If you can find the time or even the money to invest when at home, you are on a very good path towards increasing your health and longevity. Moving on from longevity and more into the performance side, let me first discuss the impact that saunas can have in your brain performance and your ability to deal with stress. First, with brain, it's interesting that saunas can trigger the release of a molecule that's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which trigger the growth of brain cells. The whole idea that we have a certain number of brain cells and either we take care of them or we lose them. And if we lose them, there's nothing we can do to get them back is fundamentally wrong. There are very different ways that can trigger growth of new brain cells. Sauna seems to be one of them because by triggering the release of BDNF, it triggers the growth of brain cells. And depending on the protocol and depending on the study, the release of BDNF can increase 12.9 to almost 60%, which is very significant because then it will impact indirectly, will impact anxiety, brain capacity, focus, concentration, decision-making, everything related to brain performance and executive performance. But on the other hand, it will have an important impact on your ability to deal with stress. And this is, interestingly, not what happened inside the heat chamber, inside the sauna, but actually what happens after it. The cooling process that happens naturally after sauna has been shown to decrease cortisol responses, decreasing stress responses, and also increasing heart rate variability, or HRV, which is a marker for the balance of our autonomous nervous system and whether we are in survival mode or rest and recover mode. The higher the HRV, the better. So the cooling process after a sauna, increasing HRV, is a very interesting impact that can benefit our stress responses. Talking about performance, when we start looking into the sport side of a performance and the impact it has in sport, then it's even more astonishing. So if you do not run or cycle or the triathlon or endurance efforts, these numbers may not mean that much to you. But believe me, they are incredible. There's a study published in 2020 that looked into the impact that sauna could have on top of training. What they did was they pick healthy, young athletes, and they divide into two sides. One would be doing just training, and the other team or the other part of the study would do training plus sauna. And they went to measure VO2 max, speed at lactate threshold, time to exhaustion, and heart rate running in the heat. Here's what they found. They found that when you add sauna on top of your training, you can have a significant increase in VO2 max. Training alone increased 2% VO2 max. Training plus sauna, 8% VO2 max. The running speed at lactate threshold increased 4%. Time to exhaustion increased 12%. And the heat adaptation was significant when they went outside and run at 40 degrees Celsius. The heart rate was 11 beats per minute lower. These numbers are stupid. This almost feels like doping. The amount of training that we have to do to get 6% increase in VO2 max and 4% increase in speed, time to exhaustion increase in 12%, and the heart rate drop of 11 beats per minute, I find it astonishing. This, on top of the increased quality of our proteins, the reduction in muscle atrophy if you get injured, the increment in mitochondrial ability and respiratory ability, all together makes these a, a must if you're into endurance efforts, endurance sports. So looking into the three areas that I always liked to look into, sauna is a must if you want to increase health and longevity, sports performance, and also executive performance. It is really a must. So now, what is the best protocol? Looking into the different areas, there is here a dose-dependent curve. It seems like the more you do, the more benefit you have. When we want to look into what's the minimum effective dosage, this seems to be the three criteria. You need to be doing 4 to 7 times per week. You need to be doing at least 20 minutes, and you need to be doing it at a temperature higher than 80 degrees Celsius. So 47 times per week, 20 plus minutes, 80 plus degrees Celsius. The most studies that I look into, especially that long-term one, they also tested the 2 to 3 times per week, and roughly the benefit in risk reduction would be half as in the group of 4 to 7. Now, we need to address the type of sauna, right? We need to discuss what is the best type of sauna to achieve it. And in the market, we'll have two types of saunas. We have the Finnish style and the near infrared or the infrared sauna style. Most data will point to Finnish saunas as the best option. And the reason is the temperature. Near infrared saunas will get into 72, 75 degrees Celsius, which is not the temperature that most studies use. It will have the added benefit of the infrared lighting and its impact in terms of photo biomodulation. But for the sake of emulating results that have been published, I need to say that the option would be a Finnish sauna because it is able to achieve easily 80 plus degrees. Some saunas will get to 97 plus degrees Celsius. If you can, get yourself a Finnish style sauna, not necessarily an infrared sauna. Just to finish it off, a couple of caveats. For males, we need to protect our testes. It has been shown that heat will reduce the quality of our sperm. You can use something that has been called the ice diapers. You just put ice or those cold gel things on the diaper or inside your shorts to maintain your testicles cool. And also, you can use a Finnish sauna cap or something that will protect your head for it not to get too hot as well. You can use the same cooling devices inside a hat to cool your head. So if you are pregnant, you should not do it. If you have an active form of inflammation, infection, chronic disease, you should not do it. And most definitely should not do it anything without consulting your physician to make sure that it's compatible to you. So by now, I hope that I was good enough in making the argument for saunas. I think it's a very good investment of time, of effort, and probably money when we look into short, medium, and long-term impact. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to see you in the next episode.